Okay, hello everyone. I'm getting a lot of questions about narrative citations versus parenthetical. So this video will explain the difference. Generally speaking, the parenthetical citation, you put the author and date in parentheses. That's why it's called parenthetical. Narrative, only the date goes in parentheses. The author is mentioned in the sentence. The reason why it's mentioned in the sentence is because you use a narrative when you are specifically talking about a study itself. Maybe you're looking at the findings of the study or the methodology, or something directly related to the study itself. You use parenthetical citations when you are, let's say you're making a general argument and you want to give support for that argument, but you're not referring to specific studies. You're just giving support for let's say a claim that you're making. You would then use all the studies. It could be more than one. All the studies that where their main findings support that general argument. I will give an example of this later, but I just want to make that distinction. Now, there's one important point that you've been learning in your lessons in week 3 and week 4. That is when it comes to repeating a citation for a narrative-based citation. Okay, repeating. So what happens is let's say that you want to talk about a particular study. Maybe it's a unique study. Maybe it's a study that the findings contradict most of all the other studies. Okay, so you are honing in, you're talking about a particular study. In the paragraph, you will start with giving the name of the author in the sentence, and then at the end of the sentence, put the date in parentheses. But then in the second and subsequent sentences where you refer back to the study, you do not need the year. Okay, you don't need the year. You can just talk about the study also found that, and in addition, furthermore, the study found blah, blah, blah. Okay, you don't need the year. Also remember, for each new paragraph, the rule applies. If you start another paragraph, you will again, the first sentence that you refer to the study, you will again mention the name of the author and the year, and then second and subsequent sentences, you don't need to mention the year. This only applies, though, where you're only talking about that study. If you also cite other works, then you have to also include the year, okay? Because you don't want to get the reader confused. All right? So this only applies if you are only talking about one particular study. Let's look at an example. So this is a paragraph. You can stop the video if you want to read this, but it's a kind of a silly paragraph that I wrote here. Notice that I start off with a very general claim. It is widely known that when it rains, people get wet. Okay, this general claim is supported by 4 different studies, and I put them in parentheses. So this is a parenthetical citation. I use the parenthetical citation because I'm talking about it. Just a general claim, and I want support for this general claim, but I'm not specifically referring to these specific studies. I just use them as support for this general claim. However, notice Johnson et al. 2021. Johnson et al. 2021 has contradictory findings. So this study found the opposite. It found that you can actually stay dry when it rains. All right. So so this is a narrative citation. Author is in the sentence with the date at the end of parentheses. But notice here I'm referring to the study. Okay, all of this information is a reference to this particular study. Notice how I don't have the date in parentheses, because I'm just talking about the findings. And the reason why I'm using a narrative citation is because I'm focusing on this one particular study that contradicts this claim that when it rains, people get wet. Okay, so this is an example of when you would use a narrative citation, and also how you would use a narrative citation in this paragraph. If I was to start a new paragraph and I still am talking about this study, I would start off by putting Johnson et al. In the sentence and then include the year, and then in second and subsequent sentences, I would again leave it out because it's not needed. However, if I would include some of these other studies, it's mixed, multiple authors, then I would have to include the year every time because I don't want to confuse the reader. Okay, so this is an example of when you would use a narrative citation, and also it shows the difference between a narrative citation and a parenthetical citation. If you have any questions, please